Alhamdulillah, bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, barahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. In 2007, UNESCO celebrated the 800th birth of Rumi in their headquarters in Paris, France. They also made a commemorative coin that on the back of it has the logo of UNESCO, and in the front of it has the face of Rumi. Here's a man who was born in a village near Balkh, Afghanistan, which is modern-day Afghanistan. Died in a city called Konya in Turkey. Spoke Farsi and Arabic. He knew other languages as well, but at a time that America was not discovered yet by Columbus. And yet, New York Times announced that Rumi is the best-selling poet in the history of American literature in English language. And then we hear all these stars such as Oprah Winfrey, who says, I can't sleep at night before I read one page from Rumi. She said, this is my Bible. And we see movie stars and actors and actresses. Recently, Beyonce and Jay-Z had twins. They named their son Rumi, and they named their daughter Sir, S-I-R. When they asked, why would you name your daughter Sir, S-I-R? They said, no, it's not Sir, it's Sir. We read in the books of Rumi about Sir, this mystery of the human being that's floating in the cosmos. How does a man born 800 years ago speak Farsi, a Muslim who prays 5 times a day, follows the madhab of Abu Hanifa, practice Sharia law from Afghanistan, becomes America's favorite poet? How does he cross cultural barriers, language barriers, religious barriers, color barriers? And how does he pierce through time? Because most messages die with the time that you're in. Once you die, your message goes with you to the grave, generally. But how is it that 800 years later, we are celebrating Maulana Rumi in Los Angeles, California? Well, anything that's written tonight was a beautiful night. We have benefited greatly from all the presenters, scholars of Path of Maulana Rumi, who spoke about the nafs, the ego, the desire, spoke about the selflessness. Beautifully, beautiful poems that were written. Anything that's written with the nafs dies with the nafs. Anything that's written with the heart and with your soul, it continues throughout time. And nothing can kill it. This is why you read Sa'di. This is why you read Hafiz. This is why you read Rumi. This is why you read Attar Nishapuri. This is why we read all these beautiful, amazing. This is why you read Abdullah Ansari, the great people, most of it from your land. Fakhruddin al-Razi died in 606, yet still, I just translated his commentary in English. He died in 606, buried in Herat, Afghanistan. And Islamic Text Society in London translates his commentary on the Quran in English. Isn't that amazing that these messages don't die? Because they wrote not for themselves. It wasn't, am I going to be a bestseller? Am I going to make money from this? Am I going to be famous? This was the worry of other people. But Maulana had no worries because he became selfless. And to know Maulana, you would only know him when he get to know himself. Maulana, there's levels of knowing yourself. Maulana has in the Masnavi many layers of knowing yourself. But the last layer of knowing yourself, what they call the seventh layer, he found out who he is on December 16th, 1273. This is the night of his death, when he was in his deathbed. And everybody was around him. Chalabi, his top student, was around him. The government officials were around him. All of these saints and scholars and teachers and dignitaries, because Maulana was dying. And they said to him, Ya Maulana, we know who you are. You can no longer hide from us. We know you're a saint. We know you're a man of God. We know you're a wali of Allah. And if awliya make dua, their prayers accepted. Why don't you make a dua that you get healed so you can stay with us? Maulana looked at them and says, Nafs. They wanted him for themselves. I don't want to lose you. When somebody dies, the reason why we cry, because they take a piece of us with them. That's why we cry. We're not crying for them. We're crying for us. It's nafs. He looked at them, and this is Rumi's final poem. And after this poem, he closed his eyes, and the next day was his funeral. And he said, Rao sar bene babalin, tanha mara reha kun. He said, leave me. Leave me alone. Leave me to my mattress. Why did he say that? Finally, he came to know himself. And if you know yourself, you don't need anybody. You only need people if you don't know yourself. Rawsar bene babalin tanha mara reha kun tarke mane kharabe shabgardi mubtala kun. درد از غیر مردن کان را دوا نباشد. I have a pain that has one cure, and it's death. پس من چگونه گویم کان درد را دوا کن؟ So how could I ask God to cure me any other way? And when he left this world, the next day the funeral, Jews, Christians, and Muslims came and buried him. And when they were burying him, when Chalabi looked and they put him in the grave, he said, Chun ke gul raft o gulistan darguzasht, nashnavi zon pas ze bulbul sarguzasht. When the roses perished and the rose garden was destroyed, you no longer will hear the beautiful singing on the night of the nightingale. It's done. In other words, you won't have another Rumi. It's done. But what he left behind is what's important. Who was this man? The Ali of Balkh, Afghanistan, becoming New York Times bestseller. Book translated in every language of the world. In Japanese, they're reading Rumi. In Brazil, is one of the bestsellers. In Spanish, in English, in Arabic, in Urdu. Well, born in the valley of Balkh to an amazing father and mother. His father was Sultan al-Ulama, the Sultan of the scholar, the master of the master, the teachers of teachers. One of the greatest minds alive. And 12 years he stayed in Afghanistan. And he learned and benefited. His father was an encyclopedia. And to have a father like that in a time that knowledge in libraries and books are scarce, It was the biggest blessing in Rumi's life. And this is what makes a person. If you put someone in the inner city, you will get the result of the inner city. You put the same person in a different environment, you get a different result. And Rumi's blessed to be in this family of scholarship. And then at age 12, they leave because of the Mongol invasion. If you read the 1200s, by the time in the 1220s, all of Persia is destroyed. They leave for pilgrimage to Hijaz, Mecca, Medina. They go through Iran, go through Iraq, Syria, Damascus, they go to Hijaz. They end up at Karaman, in a place in Turkey. When they're in Turkey, in Karaman, Alauddin Qiqabad, who's a great leader, and this is why it's important for us to appreciate good leadership, good kings, good presidents, good city council, whoever in power in politics. And if they're bad, make dua for them. Don't say, may Allah destroy these people, because this is what we are getting worse and worse and worse. Make dua that they get better. Abu Hanifa, they asked him, if you have one dua, who you make it for? He said, for the rulers. They say, why? He said, if they're good, the whole country's good. If they're bad, the whole country's bad. We need to change our perspective and start making dua, even if they are bad. Make dua that Allah guide them. But there was a good king, a ruler, a khalifa, Alauddin Qiqabad, rahimahullah, in Konya. Konya was the capital of Seljuk Empire. Invited Maulana Rumi's father to come to Konya. And he made him the chair of Islamic studies and education of Seljuk Empire, Bahauddin, Rumi's father. Now, I'll refer to him as Rumi sometime, and as Balkhi sometime, as Maulana sometime, as Maulavi sometime, and none of them are his name, which is so interesting. In the West, he's known as Rumi, in the East as Maulana or Maulavi. That's not his name. His name is Jalaluddin, Muhammad Jalaluddin. That's his name that was given by his father. Those are his kunya, those are his alqab, what they give him, was given to him. They go there and they build this beautiful masjid, the Alauddin Qiqabad Mosque. Those who go to Konya, they should visit it. It's one of the most beautiful mosques right across from Maulana Rumi. And he becomes the chair of education of an empire. When Maulana Rumi becomes 25 years old, his father dies. When his father dies, he is appointed as the chair of education of Seljuk Empire. The reason why that's important for us to know is that this was not an ordinary person. This was not a 25-year-old, most of the 25-year-olds now they're playing games. They're all on their Halo or 2K19 or something, you know? That's what they're doing. But here's a 25-year-old who is the chair, not of Stanford University or UCLA, but of Seljuk Empire. Can you imagine the type of intellect you have to have at 25? He was a master of all of the sciences of his time. He knew Arabic grammar, Persian grammar, he knew logic, he knew mantiq, falsafa, all of the sciences of his time. He was a master of it. He knew the East and West, he knew Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, all of them. He knew all of them in and out, inside and outside. Metaphysics. Then Muhaqiq Tirmizi comes from Balkh to visit him, to visit his father. This is the top student of his father. When he comes and realizes that his father is dead, he teaches Maulana Rumi everything that he has. But he sees that this man's intellect is first rate. He's going so fast. And there are people like that. There will always be people like that until the end of time. But do they use that intellect or not? And he says, no, you got to go to Damascus and learn. And that, for me, why the first time I completely fell in love with Maulana Rumi was his answer. He said, son, you need to go to Damascus and study. Now here's the answer that I would give. I said, what do you mean I need to go study? I'm the chair of education of the Muslim world. Who are you to tell me, who should I study? I am the chair. I'm the pinnacle of education. What do you want me to study? Like, this is it. I'm the chair. I'm the person. He said to him, you're like my father. And whatever you say, I do it. How long do you want me to study? He said, just go there. Study for a while. And he goes to Damascus and starts studying. Nobody knows who this man is in Damascus. And he's there for years. Comes back. And he's growing in his knowledge. He's growing. This is the first phase of Maulana Rumi. Was pre-Muhaqqiq Tirmizi. He said, I have 3 phases. He said, حاصل عمرم سه سخن بیش نیست. خام بودم. پخته شدم. سوختم. سوختم و سوختم و سوختم. تا هنر عاشقی آموختم. He said, I'll summarize my life for you in 3 words. I was raw, I got cooked, I got burnt. Then I got burnt, and I got burnt, and I got burnt until I mastered the art of love. The first phase is up to Muhaqqiq Tirmizi. Second phase is Muhaqqiq Tirmizi for all those years he was with him. When he's about 38 years old, Muhaqqiq says, I gotta go because a lion is gonna come from Tabriz and he will flip this town upside down. And I can't be here when he's here because he will come like a tsunami. Muhaqqiq leaves. Shams is like, no, Rumi's, where are you going? You're my lion. He said, no. Get ready for your tsunami. 8 months later, the third and final phase of Maulana Rumi begins when he meets his Shams. A man walks into the city and he literally flipped the entire city upside down. At least that's what people think they did. He comes in and Rumi has thousands of people in his class. He is the master, walking with the turban and the abba and the qaba and all of that beautiful ornamentation. And impressive, amazing. People are bowing down, oh Shaykh, oh Master. And this man comes in disheveled, has no form. Don't fall for the form. The entire Masnavi of Rumi, he's trying to teach you, stay away from the form and look at the meaning. Don't fall for the form. He comes into Rumi's class and he changes Rumi's life forever. Now, had he not come in and this meeting didn't happen, none of you in this room, including myself, would have known Rumi. And if we say that we would, you name me about another scholar from the 1200s, 13th century. Give me 20 scholars from that. And there was about 100. If you read Nafahatul Uns, if you read Jami's, Abdurrahman Jami, the great poet, thinker, philosopher, what a beautiful name to name an institution after. If you read his book on the memoirs, you would see how many people in every century we had amazing people that we have never heard their names. Great people, just like Rumi, pre-Shams. What Shams did to him, this is history. And he came into his life, and they say it was Asr prayer. And they were all praying, and Rumi was leading the prayer, and Shams walked in, and Allahu Akbar, Maulana Rumi is leading the prayer, everybody stood behind him. And then Shams sat down, he had a sack, he opened the sack, sat down and started eating cheese. And the Muslim were kind of like, what kind of, is he a Muslim, is he a kafir, what is he doing? So once the prayer finished, everybody attacked him, right? Muslims are great at attacking. What are you doing? You're a kafir, you're a Muslim. Say, no, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Shafi. I read Tanbih. He started mentioning all these Shafi book names. Poor guy's like, don't kill me, I'm a Muslim. He said, but you were eating cheese sitting down while the congregation goes, no, I was just following the Imam. Aren't we supposed to follow the Imam? So Maulana Rumi hears this, he goes, what's the commotion? They bring him forward and said, this man is crazy. He's saying that he's following you while he's sitting down and eating cheese. And Maulana Rumi says, Subhanallah. The moment I said Allahu Akbar, went to the prayer, I was thinking about this cheese that my wife made. And I said, when I get home, I'm going to eat this cheese. And the whole prayer, I'm eating cheese in my mind. And then Rumi says, that was the bat. He caught him. That's all he wanted to do. And that's what this beautiful story in the Masnavi about the hunter and the birds. Rumi says, who's hunting who? Who do you think is hunting who? Everybody thinks the hunter is hunting the birds. But Rumi said, no, it's the bird. They show themselves to the hunter, then the hunter goes to get them. He said, the hunter has been hunted by the birds. And he tells Rumi that you have been hunted. By who? By your students, by your fame, by your glory. And if you want this, what I know, you come to me and I'll teach you. And Rumi says, what is that? What kind of ilm is that? He says, this is ilm hal. This is the inner state knowledge. You come and I'll teach you. And Rumi abandons everything. And this what made Rumi great. He didn't say, oh my God, who's this lunatic? I'm the most famous preacher. I'm amazing. The worldwide, everybody knows me. 10,000 people at my khutbahs. No. And they go, and he changes his life. What does he do? What did he do? Rumi couldn't understand what happened. He said, گفتم این چیست بگو زیر و زبر خواهم شد. گفت می باش چنین زیر و زبر هیچ مگو. He said, oh Maulana, oh Shams, what did you do to me? You have flipped me upside down. And Shams said, no, I didn't. You were upside down all your life. I made you right side up. Things might be fuzzy. Things might be fuzzy right now, but if you stay like this, silence and don't ask questions, then you'll be all right. And this is the essence of Rumi. Don't ask questions. Don't say anything. That is, Iqbal Rahmatullah alayhi, they went to him. He said, what is the philosophy of love? He said, Koi falsafa nahi ishq ka, jahan dil chuki, wahi sar chuka. He said, there's no philosophy of love. The philosophy of love is that the intellect bows down where the heart goes. That's the philosophy of love. So he said, don't say anything. And then Rumi was taken from ilm al-yaqeen to ayn al-yaqeen to haqq al-yaqeen. So he showed him the reality of knowledge. Just not you learn things in the book, no. You have the book, no. I want you to experience knowledge. Experience it, live it. So what did he do? For the sake of time, we'll fast forward to the greatest conversation, Rumi and Shams. مرده بودم زنده شدم. Rumi said, I was dead, but I came to life. How many people we know that are dead? They're walking, muharrik. They're moving, but their hearts are dead. گریه بودم خنده شدم. I was sorrow and depression and crying, and I became happy and joyous. دولت عشق آمد و من دولت پاینده شدم, because the dominion of love came. And that is what made me eternal. Love. هرگز نمیرد آن که دلش زنده شد به عشق. ثبت است در جریده عالم دوام ما. What a beautiful poem by the master of Shiraz, who said, no one whose heart came to life with love would ever die. Their names are inscribed in the eternal book of love. He said, because the dominion of love entered my heart, I became eternal. My dominion became eternal, and that's what I won't be forgiven. دیده سیر است مرا، جان دلیر است مرا، زهره شیر است مرا، زهره تابنده شدم. 3 qualities of Rumi. He says, listen, my eyes are content. I'm not a haris, I don't have any greed. I am free from want. For as long as you want something, you're poor, you're greedy. And this is the message of Rumi, to make you free from want. They ask Bayezid Bustami, چی خواهی؟ آن خواهم که نخواهم. I want that which I don't want. I want to reach a station that I don't want anything. First thing, contentment. Qana'ah. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-qina'ah kanzun la yafna. Contentment is an inexhaustible treasure house. Jan dilir ast mara. I am a lion. I'm a fighter. Not scared. Lovers are not scared. عشق را از تیغ و خنجر باک نیست. اصل عشق از آب و باد و خاک نیست. Iqbal says that lovers are not afraid of the weapons, because love is not from this world. Love is from heaven. It's heavenly, it's not earthly. And then he said, I am the cream of the crop. I'm the cream. In other words, Allah has blessed me with this intellect, with this heart, with the mind, with understanding, with comprehension. All those 3 in one person. And then he said, this is why I become like the star shining. Now, look what Shams does to him. گفت که دیوانه نیی لایق این خانه نیی. Shams said, you're not crazy enough. Right? Famous song by Madonna, I'm crazy for you. Right? This is the final stage. People go crazy for their beloved. Qais of Beni Amir becomes Majnoon, mad. گفت که دیوانه نیی لایق این خانه نیی. You're not mad enough, you can't come into my house. This house is only for mad people. What is the symbolism of madman? Their inward and outward is one. They're not hypocrites. Mad people say whatever's on their mind. They're not politically correct. رفتم و دیوانه شدم سلسله بندنده شدم. And Rumi said, I instantly become mad and crazy because I wanted to be connected to his silsila, to his chain. گفت که سرمست نیی رو که از این دست نیی. He said, you're not intoxicated. You're not drunk enough. رفتم و سرمست شدم و از طرب آکنده شدم. And then I got so drunk. In the Diwan Shams he says, باده از ما مست شد نه ما از او. I got so drunk that even the wine got drunk of me. گفت که تو کشته نیی و از طرب آغشته نیی. He said, problem is you're still alive. What kind of lover are you? You're still alive. پیش رخ زنده کنش کشته و افکنده شدم. And I died in front of his face, and this is the face that gives life to the dead. گفت که تو شوخککی مست و خیالی و شکی گول شدم هول شدم و از همه برکنده شدم. He said, oh come on, you're playing Hollywood with me. Anything I say, oh sure, I'll become mad for you. Oh sure, I'll do this. Oh, you're trying to fool me? You're trying to pull a fast one with me? And he said, I became gullible and a loner and sat in a quiet corner. گفت که تو شام شدی قبله این جام شدی. He said, oh Rumi, you became the candle, you became the qibla of the people. You're supposed to guide people to qibla. It seems like you are the qibla. شام نیم جام نیم دود پراکنده شدم. He said, I'm not a candle, don't have any group, any congregation. I'm like the smoke that comes out of a candle. when you put it out, it's scattered. No organization. گفت که شیخی و سری پیشرو و راهبری. شیخ نیم، پیش نیم، امر تو را بنده شدم. He said, you're a sheikh, you're a master. You got everything. What do you want from me? He said, no. I'm not sheikh. I'm not a master. I'm nothing. I'm here to obey your command. گفت مرا دولت نو راه بر رنج مشم. زان که من از لطف و کرم سوی تو آینده شدم. گفت مرا عشق کهن از بر ما نقل مکن. گفتم آره نکنم. ساکن و باشنده شدم. Rumi used to read all these poems by Attar and all these poets in the past. They said, stop telling me all these old stories. And Rumi said, immediately I stopped. And I didn't say any word. And then Rumi said, doing everything that Shams said to do, this is what happened to me. And he tells Shams, he said, Chashmei Khurshid Tui. He said, oh Shams, you are the illuminating sun. Sayagahi bid manam, and I am the shade of the tree. Probably the most profound metaphor used in the Divan Shams. Chashmei Khurshid Tui, you're the illuminating sun. Sayagahi bid manam, I'm just the shade of the tree. The shade of the tree has a value. What is its value? It's shade. That's the value of it. That spot that there's a shade of the tree, the value is because there's a shade in there. And he said, Chun ki zadi bar sar man, pasto gudazende shudam. But when you illuminated on me, I became worthless because the shade is gone. What did he do? Shams removed his shadow. Shams removed his shadow. In other words, he made him selfless. What is the shama'il of our Prophet? He was the shadowless Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The shadowless Prophet. Because he had no ego. He had no self. And this is what Shams is trying to do, to make him al-insan al-kamil, the perfected human being. And for that reason, Maulana Rumi became who he is because he listened to everything that Shams said. No one can become someone. Robert Frost said, if you make it from somewhere, from nowhere up to somewhere, from being a no one up to being a someone, be sure to keep repeating to yourself that you owe it to an arbitrary God, whose mercy unto you rather than to others won't bear too critical examination. That anything happens, you should thank God. Number one, first and foremost, but there's someone that will help you. Then one of the contemporary Iranian poets said, Hich kas az pish khud chizi nashod. Hich ahan khanjar tizi nashod. No one became someone by themselves. No piece of steel turned itself into a beautiful sword. هیچ قنادی نشد استاد کار تا که شاگرد شکرریزی نشد. No pastry master became at that level unless they started as a student in a pastry school. هیچ مولانا نشد مولای روم. How many Maulanas we have? But we have one Maulana of Rome. هیچ مولانا نشد مولای روم تا مرید شمس تبریزی نشد. Until he didn't become the student of Shams Tabriz. And Shams Tabriz took him throughout, step by step by step. And what did he do? He told Rumi, you have to let go in order for me to help you. گفت که با بال و پری من پر و بالت ندهم. He said, you have your own wings and feathers. What do you want from me? I can't help you. در هوس بال و پرش بی پر و پرکنده شد. In the hope of his wings and feathers, all my wings and feathers just fell. This is the sign of an amazing teacher. To teach love. Love is the highest subject to teach. And that's what he taught him. How to be a man who know how to fall in love. Because we have, each and every one of us, have that ability to fall in love. And he taught Rumi how to fall in love. Fall in love with who? Fall in love with who? Abdurrahman Jami, the great mystic and poet, has a story of Layla and Majnun. The greatest love story, they said, that ever written. Layla and Majnun. Qais of Bani Amir becomes mad, loses his sanity. Everything he loses for this girl named Layla. And then one day they said Nofel, one of the tribesmen, was riding a horse in the desert. And then he saw from far away someone reading some lines of poetry. He said, I got to go check it out. What is he saying? Did Majnun ra yaki sahra navard dar miyoni badiye benshast far. So they saw, this man saw Majnun in the middle of the desert all by himself sitting. Karde safher rigo angushtan qalam mizanad ba ashk khunin in raqam. And he has turned the sand of the desert into a page of book, a notebook. And he has turned his finger into a pen, and he's writing with ink the shed of tears of blood that he's shedding. گفت ای مجنون شیدا چیست این؟ می نویسی نامه بهر کیست این؟ They said, oh Majnun, the madman. What is this? You're writing a letter? Who are you writing this to? What are you writing? گفت مشق نام لیلی می کنم. عشق love. گفت مشق نام لیلی می کنم، خاطر خود را تسلی می کنم. He said, I'm just writing the name Layla over and over again because it gives me tranquility and peace and solace. Just her name. چون میسر نیست من را کام او، عشق بازی می کنم با نام او. What a lover. Because I can't get to Layla. So I'm making love with the name Layla. Rumi said, shame on us. Majnun lost his sanity. His father was the head of the tribe of Bani Amir. Lost his dignity, lost his wealth, lost his intellect, lost everything, became homeless. And all Layla gave for him was just her name, nothing else. One name, Layla. And he says, shame on us. God has given us 99 names. And not one day we made love with the name of God. Not one day. هو الأول هو الآخر هو الظاهر هو الباطن بغیر از هو یا من هو دیگر چیزی نمیدانم. But Rumi said there's two types of love. عشق زنده عشق حی لا يموت. عشق مرده مثل بیت عنکبوت. He said the real love is the love of the living al-hayy. But the love of the ephemeral, of the dead things, is like a spider's web. It's gone. فرق در مجنون و در من این نگر کو به لیلا من به مولا در بدر. The difference between me and Majnun is one thing. Both of us are desperately seeking. He is seeking his Layla and I'm seeking my Mawla. خاک شد مجنون و هم لیلای او. How sad. Majnun is Layla. Both of them died and became dirt of the earth. خاک شد خاکی به خاک. Why او? Sad how people fall in love with the dirt of the earth. هر که باشد عاشق مولای من، باشد اندر جان من لیلای من. And Rumi said, if you want to be my Layla, just fall in love with my Mawla. But falling in love is not easy. It's the hardest thing. It's easy to talk about. It's hard. The Afghanis, they have a proverb. Everybody should know this proverb. Dil sher nadari, safar ishq makon. You don't have the heart of the lion, don't travel on the path of love. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. Rumi has a story, and we'll finish. He has a story about I translated it as gangster from Qazwin, a Pahlawan, this macho man, who goes to this tattoo parlor, and we'll tell the story in the way of Rumi. این حکایت بشنو از صاحب بیان در طریق و عادت قزوینیان. Listen to the story. Rumi says, this is the way of the people of Qazwin. It's a city in Iran. بر تن و دست و کتفها بیگزن از سر سوزن کبودی ها زنند. And it's part of their tradition that they used to put tattoos on their hands and on their arms and on their shoulders, their chest, all over their bodies. سوی دلاکی بشد قزوینی که کبودم زن بکن شیرینی. So this gangster from Qazwin went to a tattoo master. He said, put on a tattoo on me. گفت چی صورت زنم ای پهلوان. The tattoo master said, oh, Mr. Gangster, what would you like me to put on you? گفت برزن صورت شیر ژیان. طالع هم شیر است نقش شیر زن. جهد کن رنگی که بودی سیر زن. He said, why don't you tattoo a lion? And make sure you have a lot of details. Don't be afraid of doing a lot with the needle. Do all the details. And I want a perfect lion. Because I'm a lion. That's what they call me on the street. Right? I'm the gangster of Qazwin. گفت بر چه موضعت صورت زنم. He said, what part of your body should I put this lion on? گفت بر شانگه هم زن این رقم. He said, why don't you put it on my shoulder? چون که او سوزن فرو بردن گرفت درد آن بر شانگه مسکن گرفت. So when he put the needle to start the tattoo, the pain of the needle started to enter his body. پهلوان در ناله آمد کای سنی مرمرا کشتی چه صورت میزنی. So the gangster said, oh my, ouch, ouch, you're killing me. What is this? What are you doing? What form is this? What design is this? گفت آخر شیر فرمودی مرا. He said, oh, didn't you just ask me to design a lion on your back? گفت از چی عضو کردی ابتدا? He said, from what part of the lion did you just start? گفت از دمگاه آغازیده ام. He said, I started from the tail of the lion. گفت دم بگذار ای دودیده هم. He said, please leave the tail alone. I don't want a tail. از دم و دمگاه شیرم دم گرفت. دمگاه او دمگاه هم محکم گرفت. شیر بیدم باش گو ای شیر ساز که دلم سستی گرفت از زخم گاز. He said, please make a lion without a tail because this pain is killing me. Please. جانب دیگر گرفت آن شخص زخم بی محابا بی مواسا بی زرهم. So the tattoo master is seeing the form of this gangster and amazed at his reaction. So he just put the needle in another part without any mercy, without any consideration. بان کرد او کین چی اندام است از او. He said, ouch, ouch, you're killing me. What is this? What part is this? گفت این گوش است ای مرد نیکو. He said, this is the ear of the lion. Intelligent gangsters. گفت تا گوشش نباشد ای حکیم گوش را بگذار و کوتاه کن گلیم. He said, please, can you make a lion without ears? Can you speed it up, get it done with? You're killing me with this needle. 2 pokes. جانب دیگر خلش آغاز کرد باز قزوینی فغان را ساز کرد کین سوم جانب چی اندام است نیز. Then he put the needle on the third spot and he said, ouch, ouch, you're killing me. What is this? What part is this? گفت این است اشکم شیر. ای عزیز. He said, this is the stomach of the lion, oh my beloved. گفت تا اشکم نباشد شیر را. چی شکم باید نگار سیر را؟ He said, forget about the stomach, man. What do you need a stomach? Make a lion without a stomach. خیره ماند دلاک و بس حیران بماند تا بدیر انگشت بر دندان بماند. The tattoo master is just dumbfounded. He's looking at him like, what is this? And he's holding on out of just tahayyur and just bewildered, looking at this man. بر زمین زد سوزن آندم استاد گفت در عالم کسی را این فتاد. And then the tattoo master slammed the needle onto the ground. He said, has anyone ever heard anything so absurd on this planet? شیر بیدم و سر و اشکم کی دید این چنین شیر خدا خود نافرید. He said, who has ever seen a lion that doesn't have a tail, doesn't have a head, doesn't have a stomach? Even God hasn't created a lion like that. گر نداری طاقت سوزن زدن از چنین شیر ژیان پس دم مزن. Oh my friend, if you can't take the pain of the needle, please don't bluff about tattooing a roaring lion on your back. This is our story. This is our story. ای برادر صبر کن بر درد نیش. Oh my friend, be patient with the pain of the needle. تا رهی از نفس کفر گبر خویش. تا رهی از نیش نفس گبر خویش. So you're free from the needle of your nafs. What is he trying to teach us in the story, Rumi? What is the message of the story? Here's the message of the story. We are all the gangster from Qazwin. All of us are the gangsters from Qazwin. The tattoo is the love of God. We all want it. We want God to love us. Radiyallahu anhu wa radu an. We want to be amongst the people. God is pleased with us. And we love God. God loves us. But every time God is trying to pierce his love through us, we say, no, it hurts. I don't want it. I don't want it. We want the tattoo. We want the lion. But just the pain of the needle, we can't take it. And God's love pierced through like the needle into your heart. And if you're patient with that, once that tattoo is on your shoulder, everything, all of the people of Qazwin will fear you. You will walk like the real gangster of Qazwin. Everyone will bow down to you. تا خدا بنده نواز است به خلقش شریعاست میکشم ناز یکی تا به همه ناز کنم. That if we do that, it is then that we will be those people in Insan al-Kamil, the perfected human being. And this is the station that Maulana Rumi is inviting all of us in. Our dear esteemed scholar, Aghay Hashimi, spoke beautifully about the human station, the Maulana Rumi, about this dunya. And Rumi's message is to get rid of yourself in order for the nafs to come in. For as long as you are in the middle, there is nothing between you and God. Hafiz said, میان عاشق و معشوق هیچ حائل نیست. تو خود حجاب خودی حافظ از میان برخیز. There is no barrier between the lover and the beloved. You are the barrier. Get out of the way. We become the barrier. And sometimes, if pain comes, just be patient. Because there is a lion being designed on your shoulder. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Because everything in this world and in the next world, no pain, no gain. You got to take the pain. I thank you for being part of this program. I do apologize for being half jet lag. Just came today and got up early this morning. Do apologize if my mind was scattered, but I did benefit from the speeches of the gentleman and the sister who spoke beautifully, all of them, from this beautiful gathering. May Allah give tawfiq and benefit us, inshallah, to come back, everybody here, to come back, especially the young table who were put under the bus today by Tariq Jan. I think this is their first and last time. But if you have any questions, comment, clarification, correction, I'm here. If not, then fi amanillah. Yes. The question is about the whirling dervishes and the practices and how did it enter the Islamic. Whirling dervishes is not Rumi. I know it's a little bit painful for a lot of people who studied Rumi from the Western perspective. As a matter of fact, it has nothing to do with Rumi. Whirling dervishes was started by his son, Sultan Walad, after the death of Maulana Rumi, and the tariqah of Maulawiyah has nothing to do with Rumi. Anybody who enters that tariqah because of Rumi, they're doing a disservice to Maulana Rumi, because he was a universal man and he wasn't about my group and my people and my this and my that. Rather, it was about his message is universal for the Muslim Christian. That's one of the things that Rumi is not even for the Muslims. And if you know, I always say that, and sometimes Muslims get upset, and I said, I don't care, because he didn't write his book for the Muslims. He wrote it for the humankind. It's for every human being. And that message is very universal, and everyone can benefit. Although we can see as Muslims 3,000 references to the Quran and Hadith in the Masnavi of Rumi. You can't take that away. You can't take away his Islamic understanding and his love for Allah and His Messenger. That's at the root of it. But even that is very universal. Everyone can appreciate. The whirling dervishes came after Maulana Rumi passed away. His son was worried that my father would be forgotten. This was his word. He didn't know he's going to be New York Times bestseller. He didn't know it's going to be the figure that going to go down in history. He said, I want to do things that he will be remembered. One of the things that he started, Maulana Rumi, to be fair, he did turn one time, and this is the moment of ecstasy. The turn is called Toba. In Arabic, the word Toba means to turn. When you repent, you turn to Allah, you turn back. And that turning is supposed to be a turning of the heart. You're supposed to turn your heart toward God. But then his Toba was so intense that his inward reality manifested to his outward. So he turned physically and spiritually at the same time. And they took that as a symbol of Maulana Rumi. And then they turned it into, if you study the actual whirling dervishes, it's a beautiful thing. I'm not against it. I actually attended one of the ceremonies at the Maqam of Maulana, 2015. They had a live show for us, for our group, and it was one of the most amazing thing to witness. And it's the 3 degrees of the nafs. It's just taking you, purifying your nafs. And this is why they bow down and they go to the sheikh, and then the sheikh gives them the secret, and then they go and they keep turning and purifying themselves. They go down to the next nafs until they get to nafs al-mutma'inna. It's a but now again it's become more like a business, like a show, which is, it's part of the world, like if those are the things. For me, it's nice that I met a person, I don't want to mention his name, he's one of the richest people in America. He's not a Muslim, obviously. He's in San Francisco. He's a multi-billionaire, and somehow somebody contacted me, if you want to do a program on Rumi. I said sure. So we went. I didn't even know this man was involved. When I went there, he was the host and all these people, and he told his story. He said, I was invited by the government of Turkey to a special whirling dervish conference by the king, by the president. And I said, man, who's going to turn down this invitation like that? So I went, and he said, I was touched so much for 2-3 weeks, I was having dreams about it. And he said, it really affected me that I wanted to do something for Rumi and for the Muslims. And he said, that changed my view on the Muslims. I said, Rumi was a Muslim, this is beautiful art. He looked at it from an art perspective. But in any case, it has an effect on people. It's not a bad thing. But it's not something that we can say Maulana Rumi is a whirling dervish, because that would be a disservice to do that. Rumi is, I think that he is a whirling dervish, but a whirling dervish of the heart, not of the body. He wasn't, his whole message is to forget the body. That's the whole message. Leave your body alone and go inside and connect with your heart. Leave everything. The whole Masnavi, stories after story, the story of the Sufi in the garden. What does he do? Sufi dar bagh az bahri nuqul Sufiana sar bar zanu nahad. It's non-stop. He's telling about the Sufi in the garden. He went and he Sufi dar bagh az bahri gushad Sufiana rui bar zanu nahad. Pas فرو رفت او به خود اندر نقول این شد ملول از صورت خوابش فضول که چی خسبی آخر اندر رز نگر این درختان بین و آثار و خضر. گفت آثارش دل است ای بلهوس آن بیرون آثار است و بس. That this man, this great Sufi, was in a garden, and he looked inside himself, and a stupid man came and said, what are you doing? Look at the garden, look at the roses, look at the trees, look at all these beautiful things. And the man said, no. That's the reflection. The real garden is right here in the heart. I am the garden. And that's what he's teaching. So he's not teaching about their self-glorification. Most of his teaching is about leaving the self and connecting with your real self, which is your heart and soul. Yes. Balu Farmay. Thank you.
I hope this is not uncomfortable, that I'd like to ask a personal question. I'd like to know what is your background, where were you born? I'm so sorry, maybe
Yeah.
to many
No.
people
That's a good question. Yeah, yeah, I know. Thank you.
Is this the first time?
Yeah.
And what age and how did you get to it?
Oh, okay. It's a good question. I was born in Herat, Afghanistan. Primary education in Afghanistan, and then we migrated, somehow ended up through many countries, Iran, Pakistan, and good old California. I've been living here most of my life in California and in the Bay Area. Rumi, to be honest with you, I had no interest in Maulana Rumi. Personally, I used to memorize his poem when I was a kid. My favorite poet was Rahim Ayari, a contemporary Iranian poet, and I was obsessed with him a lot, and I actually had all his work by the time I was like probably 18 or so. And I love poetry since I was young. My family was very strong when it came to literature. My older brother, most of you know, he's a PhD in Persian literature, Dr. Mujadidi. My father actually named me after a poet, فريدون and he had this famous poem called Kuche. I think most of the Afghans have it memorized. Bitu mahtab shabi baz az an kuche guzashtam hame tan chashm shadam khira be donbale tu gashtam. I think I was like 6. I haven't started school when I memorized that poem. And it's a hard poem because it's shira now. It doesn't rhyme. It doesn't have measure. But in any case, I really liked it. For me, it was in the 90s. I was listening to one American scholar, a Muslim scholar, who was giving a lecture on Islam. I remember the exact time and day. It was May 31st, 1999, and I was attending this conference, and he gave a talk. And in his talk, he said, Rumi says about jihad. He says jihad is nothing other than picking up the sword to take the sword out of the hand of a madman. And when he said that, it was like a knife just went through my heart. I said, this is what Rumi is talking about, and we are so unaware. We thought it was all these things about all these songs that we hear. So then I started reading the poetry with another perspective, just to see, okay, what is the message in here? And it was then that I found that everything there's meaning in every line of poetry, and the meanings are layers and layers and layers. Even ای برادر قصه چون پیمانه است، معنا اندر وی مثال دانه است. دانه معنا بجوید مرد عقل، ننگرد پیمانه را گرگشت نقل. کودکان افسانه ها می آورند، درج در افسانه شان بس سر و پند. هزل ها گویند در افسانه ها، گنج می جو در همه ویرانه ها. هزل تعلیم است آن را جد شنو، تو مشو بر ظاهر هزلش گرو. And everything Rumi says that there are meanings in every form. Don't be deluded by the form. Seek the meaning. And then things start opening up to see what he's talking about. When he's saying, Man ghulami qamaram ghayri qamar hich magu, who is he talking about? Who is qamar? Who is qamar? You, yeah, who's qamar? The Prophet ﷺ is a graduate from Zaytuna College. I put him on the spot. You should know that. That's one of the names of the Prophet, Qamar, the full moon. Because Jabir said, one night I looked at the full moon, and then I looked at the face of the Prophet. Then I looked at the full moon. Then I looked at the face of the Prophet ﷺ, and I said, Ya Rasulullah, your face is more beautiful than the full moon. And this is what Rumi is saying, that Man ghulami qamaram ghayri qamar hich magu pishi man jos sukhane. شمع و شکر هیچ مگو، سخنی رنج مگو جز سخنی گنج مگو، و از این بیخبری رنج مبر هیچ مگو. گفتم ای دل پدری کن که نه این وصف خداست، گفت می باش چنین جان پدر هیچ مگو. This is all about Allah and His Messenger. This is what he's talking about. The whole Masnawi is the love of God and the love of Messenger of God. The whole Masnavi is all about ishq. And ishq at the highest level reached to God. But ishq ra aghoz hast, anjam neest. Love starts with the ephemeral, but then it becomes eternal. There's a beginning, but there's no end to love. Because al-ma'na huwa Allah, the ultimate meaning is God. And palla palla ta mulaqata khuda. Step by step until you get to the divine presence. This is Rumi's teaching. And those are the things that really, and I don't do this, I do it out of necessity because nobody's doing it. It's an honest truth. And for me, is young people that call me and they say, I want to learn Farsi. I want to memorize poetry. I want to read these books, recommendation. That's what gives me energy, that there's this generation that they are embarrassed to speak Farsi. Now they're proud of speaking Farsi because they know the meaning in those words, that these are not meaningless words. And that's what Rumi comes, and we should be very proud that, we have someone like that. The West would die for him. They're dying for him, even him being from Afghanistan. But imagine if he was from here, what would they do for him? And yet, most of our people don't even know who he is. Somebody said, Diwan al-Shams was not written by Rumi. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I swear to God. An old man. He said, why did he say Diwan al-Shams was written by Rumi? He says Diwan al-Shams. Don't you know it's written by Shams? If you don't even know which books he wrote, this is a disaster, complete disaster. And then so we need young people to get inspired and to learn and to dedicate a lifetime and take the meanings out of this book. We haven't scratched the surface in the West. I'm telling you guys, all those books, New York Times bestseller, they're not 1% from the Masnavi, not 1%. Most of them didn't even get it. You read those things, you're like, whoa, what is he saying? They don't understand it. Because there's metaphysics, there's so much culture, religion, spirituality, tasawwuf, all of them are embedded into it. So for me, it's a journey that I'm a student of the student, So I have no claim of anything in this path. I just like to learn, read. I have my commentaries of the Masnavi, just read them. And I know a lot of the Afghanis, if they don't read Bedel and Masnavi, that's it, you can't even talk to them. They start getting hot-tempered, which is good. Masnavi gets rid of depression. The best is better than Prozac, I swear to God. You do it for 1 year, you read Masnavi for an hour a day, it will change your life. You will be the happiest person. And many people that I know have done that and they have changed their lives. Just these stories would make sense out of your life. Inshallah.
یک دنیا تشکر از جناب استاد مجددی. واقعا لذت بردیم. یکی از دوستان ما خواهش کردن که یکی از مثنوی‌های حضرت مولانا رو میخواین بخوانن. اگر لطف میکنین تشریف بیارین، انشالله که کوتاه باشه.
من حیفم اومد که یک جلسه از مولانا باشه اینجا، عزیزان ما باشن و تفننی درش نباشه. این بود که پیشنهاد کردم که یه 3 بیتی از ابتدای مثنوی مولانا بخونم تا تغییری باشه در جو جلسه. من این رو با صوت میخونم و صوتش هم مثنوی هست. بشنو از نی چون شکایت می کند از جدایی ها حکایت می کند که از نیستان تا مرا ببریده اند، از نفیر مرد و زن نالیده اند. سینه خواهم شرح از فراق تا بگویم شرح و درد اشتیاق، تا بگویم شرح و درد اشتیاق. خیلی متشکرم که دوست دارم. ممنون.
حال از عزیز ما از جناب آقای محجوب خواهش میکنیم که بایستی تشریف بیارن.
سلام. اول خب میا جان هر دم از این باغ بری میرسد تازه تر از تازه تری. این برورا خود به کجا قایم میکنی؟ نام خدا فريدون جان به افتخار فريدون جان یک کف. واقعا بسیار یک بیانیه بسیار خوب. آقا صاحب و شما هر چی که من میخواستم بگم خراب کردین دیگه. من چی ندارم بگم. گفتن یک افغان بیچاره رفت به مکه اونجا دعا میکرد، بسیار دعا کرد خدای گفت بچهای ما رو ببخش، فامیل ما رو ببخش، الهی با ما رحم کن، افغانستان رو خوب کن. گفت الهی شهادت نصیب کن. تو با دعایش آمد و با موتر سوار شد آمد طرف افغانستان. هرات تیر شد آمد اینطور میرفت طرف کابل. موتر استارت کردن طالبا، جنگ شد، صد توفنگا کشیده شد، تیرباران، حساب و کتاب. مرتکه قایم شد به زیر ست. موتروان اومد گفت برادر اینجا بیجه ست. گفت با خدا ما دعا کردیم که برای شهادت نمیفهمید که خدا قبول میکنه. دیگه یک چیزی به گفته فريدون جان که لطف کردن واقعا بسیار مقبول، کاش که من شما را وقت میشناختم. سعدی میگه که درویش مستجاب الدعوه در شهر بغداد پدید آمد. حجاج بن یوسف گفت ای درویش مرا دعای خیری کن. درویش دست به دعا بگرفت و بگفت الهی جانش بستان. حجاج فریاد برآورد از بحر خدا این چه دعاست که میکنی؟ درویش گفت این دعای خیر است تو را و جمیع مسلمانان را. ای زبردست زیر دست آزار، گرم تا کی بماند این بازار. به چه کار آید در جهان داری، مردنت به که مردم آزاری. دیگه همونطور که ما گفتم واقعا ما چیزی که گفتم آنچه من میخواستم بگویم شما گفتیم فعلا. همین قدر ما میخوایم که همین مسئله رومی و مسئله که رومی توانسته چیزا رو پیش بینی کنه که واقعا در این وقت او علمش نبود، علم فیزیک نبوده، این چطوری واقع میشه که میتونه. رومی در حال هست که مولاناست، پیشواست، شاگردا داره، مکتب داره، قابل دارای شخصیت است، دارای علمیت است، سلطان او رو دوست داره، مگر خالی است. دنبال یک چیزی میگه مرده بودم. یک آدمی که اینقدر با شخصیت هم او احترام داره میگه مرده بودم. این حالت است که حالت فیزیکی است. ما در حالت فیزیکی چشم داریم، احساس پنجگانه داریم. چشم ما امروز 4.6% آنچه هست میبینیم. 4.6%. فکر کنید 10% هم نیست. فقط 4.6% چیزی در جهان است با ما مرئی است. بقیه کلش نامرئی است. همچنان گوش ما بسیار محدود است، همچنان احساس دیگه تمام احساسات هم محدود است. و جهانی که مولانا میخواست که از این پرواز کنه این جهان محدود بود و میخواست به جهانی بره که محدود نباشه. کور مولانا در کلام خود همیشه او را عدم میگه. و عدم جایی است که ماده نیست، در جایی که ماده نیست. ما و شما در محیط هستیم که بسیار یک رشته کوچکی از نور به اون میآید. And that's the red to purple, you know, مدار از قرمز، فرکانسی قرمز تا بنفش. بقیه از این که همه هست این جهان ما نیم میبینیم نیم به او هستیم. خداوند میگه الله نور السماوات والارض. خداوند نور مطلق است. نور السماوات والارض نور مطلق است. برای خداوند میگه که الله الصمد، یعنی خداوند مطلق است. مطلق یعنی انرژی مطلق. نه خیر، انرژی مطلقی که مخرج از او که زمان است به طرف صرف تقرب نمیکنه مگر صفر مطلق است. شما وقتی فرمول انیشتین سایتونید E is equal to mc square، و مخرج از این زمان است و در هر موقع شما وقتی که شما اشعه ایکس که ساخته ماست که شما نمیبینید، میرین به داخل چیز عکس شما رو میگیره، شما اشعه ایکس نمیبینید مگر آثار از میبینید که عکس شما رو گرفت. اشعه گاما که خود در طبیعت است 36 اینچ فولاد عبور میکنه. او هم تابع زمان است. او هم تابع زمان است. یگانه چیزی که تابع زمان نیست خداوند است، که تابع زمان نیست. خداوند مطلق است، یعنی صفر مطلق است. مخرج و صورت فاینایت، انفینیتی مطلق است. not reducing. نه تابع زمان است نه تابع مکان است، از او واسه که در اول و در آخر است. خداوند در هر جایی که خواسته باشه هست. این هست که خداوند علم همه چیز داره، برای که در همه زمان، در عین بیزمانی در همه زمان هست، در هر جا هست. و مولانا یا مثلا کسای مثل مولانا چگونه میتونن به این قسمت خود داخل کنن؟ شما اگر یک قاشق یا پنجره بگیرین، ایره بگذارین سر یک آهن دیگه او رو نمیگیره مگر یک مغناطیس میگیره. مغناطیس چی داره؟ It has an energy. It takes the energy, pulls it out. مگر شما when you take this knife and rub it on the magnet, it pulls out things. What happens? What happens is that in our bodies the molecules are all scattered all over. We're all scattered. And in the knife, the same way, the molecules are all scattered. But it learns from the magnet directions. Half of it comes to the positive, half of it comes to the negative, becomes a force, boom, it picks up things. It becomes an energy. In human body, the same way. Everything we do, all the activities we do is related to electricity. You know, I see, it reports it to the brain decides what to do and reports it back to you to do. Hearing the same way, touching the same way, feeling everything. Everything is, all our body is a completely electronic magnetic field. So when people meditate, what happens to those molecules? They all find a direction. When they find a direction, and of course it's not meditating that I do because nothing happens to me, but when it's serious meditation, that's what happens is the frequency of the molecules increase. Once the frequency of the molecules of your body increase, you are at different level than other people. That's why Abu Sayyid Abul Khair could feel the guy was hungry. Because he was in a higher frequency, he could actually see the gases coming from him. Or somebody's sad, or somebody's happy. They know. آفتاب در یک ذره نهان، ناگهان آن ذره بگشاید دهان. اندک اندک گردد افلاک و زمین، از زمین برجست چون آن نازنین. He's talking about nuclear reaction, you know? Nuclear reaction. What did Maulana know about nuclear reaction? You know, آفتاب در یک ذره نهان، ناگهان آن ذره بگشاید دهان، اندک اندک گردد افلاک و زمین، از زمین برجست چون آن نازنین. This is 800 years ago, and this is talking about nuclear reactor. And so it's amazing. What it does to you is that it teaches you physics. It teaches you things beyond the imagination of human beings. Because again, we are in the zone of 4.6%. You know, he wanted to reach beyond. And that's how he wanted to go, you know, go to the Adam. And Adam is that area, that zone. You close the 5 limiting senses that you have, and you open the senses of infinity. And when the senses of infinity are open, you are already into energy zone. Energy zone is God. God is the energy zone, and energy zone is God. And that's how they reach. No, it's not easy to do. It's very, very difficult. But obviously, it's absolutely possible with a lot of help. Anyways, I'm not going to, because the food smells good and it's good. But one last thing I want to say is that what Rumi found was the whole world is about love. That God created the whole world just for love. گفت پیغمبر که حق فرموده است، قصد من از خلق احسان بوده است. من نکردم خلق تا سودی کنم، بلکه تا بر بندگان جودی کنم. از برای عشق عالم را بساخت، ذره ها را آفتابی او نواخت. گر نبودی بحر عشق پاک را، کی وجودی دادمی افلاک را. من بدان افراشتم چرخ سنی، تا غلوی عشق را فهمی کنی. دور گردون ها ز موج عشق دان، گر نبودی عشق کی بودی جهان. صبح you wake up in the morning, the sun comes up, we take everything for granted, but you don't know that when that thing comes up, the vegetation start giving oxygen. If they don't give oxygen, we're all dead. Then you come out and all these bees are pollinating for you. They're pollinating so you can have fruits. What is really creating all of this stuff? Night and day, they create the difference in temperature so the winds start. You see that? Once the wind starts, it picks up. Don't think of little rain. Think Niagara Falls. All of that comes from the sea. But you know what it does? It takes the salt out. It brings it up and moves it to the places where it's supposed to go. And then it rains. And believe me, if it doesn't rain the right way, it's going to kill us all. But it rains the right way. If oxygen is 19%, you're going to be suffocating. If it's 23%, you're going to be suffocating. It just has to be that right amount. We don't think that these are not accidental. These are designed. Every single one of it is designed. So it's love. Every part of it is love. The rain comes down, the life comes back. And it just helps the universe go on and on and on and on. Think about it. And I give you one last thing. I don't know if I have the last. You should? Okay. گفتن که از یک افغان میپرسن، گفتن چرا افغان ها پیش از اینکه جواب بدن یک چیز رو دو میزنن؟ یک چیز گفته که بد کرده کسی گفته کیست پرسان؟ با مسابقات 20 سوالی یک نفر گفتن که از تو سوال میکنیم جواب سوال چکش است مگر اول نگویی که چکش است. اما چند سوال پشت هم بکو با آخر که رسید باز بگو چکش است، میگه ما باز چی دارم به تو میدین. گفته خوب سه است. آمد و سوال کردن گفت جامد است؟ گفتن بله. گفت جاندار است؟ گفتن نه. گفت حتما بی جان است؟ گفت چوب است؟ چوبم داره. گفت آهن است؟ گفت آهنم داره. گفت باشه یک چیز بگم که بگن نه. گفت که به جیب جا میشه؟ گفتن ها. گفت چی تو چکش است که به جیب جا میشه؟ شب شما همه خوش.
خب دوستان گرامی، پیش از اینکه شما را به صرف تام دعوت بکنیم، باز هم تشکر از تک تک شما که تشریف آوردین، لطف کردین و من مطمئن هستم که برنامه امروز و امشب به دل همه نشسته و همگی فیض بردن از همه سخنرانی ها و خاصتا از سخنرانی های جناب آقای مجددی. خداوند شما را عزت و برکت بده و میفهم که بسیار گرسنه شدین. از میمانای خاص خود خواهش میکنیم که به طرف میز نان تشریف ببرن و نان نوش جان بکنن. بعد از او هم به احترام دوستانی که دیگر با ما نیستن و وفات شدن، ما برنامه موسیقی نداریم، ولی برنامه خودمانی هست که با هم بشینیم و صحبت بکنیم. برنامه سوال و جواب جناب آقای مجددی و دیگر بزرگوارا هم هستن اینجا که یک بحث خودمانی باشه. سالون در خدمت شما هست.
بهار تلویزیون د یووالي او پیوستون رښتینی غږ.
تلویزیون بهار تلویزیون مردمی که شامل برنامه‌های هنری، فرهنگی، اجتماعی، سیاسی، ورزشی و موضوعات داغ روز می باشد. پس تلویزیون بهار را دنبال کنید.
تلویزیون بهار تلویزیون مردمی که شامل برنامه‌های هنری، اجتماعی، فرهنگی، ورزشی و موضوعات داغ روز می باشد. پس تلویزیون بهار را دنبال کنید.
مژده به مصرف کنندگان زعفران، این گیاه جادویی و درمانی برای سلامتی شما. شرکت دیواین هیلینگ زعفران برای نخستین بار زعفران عالی و درجه 1 طلایی و سرخ تصدیق یا تایید شده 267 را در بازارهای جهانی عرضه کرده است. زعفران که ماده شفابخش برای بیماری‌های افسردگی، اضطراب، دپریشن، سرطان، تقویت حافظه، کیموتراپی و سایر امراض می باشد، از سوی شرکت مرغنا لیمیتد در ولایت باستانی هرات جمع آوری و از سوی زنان افغان پاککاری و پروسس شده و بالاخره به کالیفرنیای امریکا منتقل می شود. در آنجا در بوتل‌های معیاری و با استاندارد امریکا بسته‌بندی می گردد. شرکت مرغنا لیمیتد زعفران دارای عالی‌ترین درجه جهانی با کیفیت‌ترین، مؤثرترین و بر اساس استانداردهای جهانی را با مشتریانش عرضه می کند. زعفرانی که از سوی مرغنا لیمیتد برای مشتریانش پیشکش می گردد دارای تصدیق جهانی بوده و از شهرت ویژه در بازارهای جهانی برخوردار است. شرکت دیواین هیلینگ زعفران بر ریاست بانو مرغنا از طریق سایت های مختلف اینترنتی از جمله healingzafran.com، amazon.com و ebay زعفران را به کشورهای مختلف جهان عرضه می کند. این شرکت 11% مفادش را برای زنان و کودکانی که در افغانستان مورد خشونت قرار گرفته اند کمک می کند. همچنان افرادی که دچار افسردگی یا دپریشن هستند 50% تخفیف ویژه به دست می آورند. مشتریان افغان حتی 15% تخفیف خاص می توانند به دست بیاورند. که البته این امکان از طریق www.healingzafran.com با وارد کردن رمز افغان در بخش سفارشات سایت شرکت به شما میسر می شود. شرکت دیواین هیلینگ زعفران برای مشتریانی که 21 و 28 گرم زعفران سرخ خریداری کنند تحفه های ویژه در نظر گرفته شده است. این تحفه ها شامل گیلاس یا پیاله های ویژه قهوه نوشی است که در آن می توان چای زعفران را نیز نوش جان کرد. در ضمن مشتریانی که 2.5 گرم، 5 گرم، 7 گرم و 11 گرم زعفران سرخ خریداری کنند 2 گرم زعفران طلایی به گونه تحفه طور مجانی به دست می آورند. شرکت دیواین هیلینگ زعفران زعفران تازه، عالی و درجه 1 تایید یا تصدیق شده 267 را تازه از افغانستان وارد می کند و تلاش دارد تا با بازاریابی در سطح جهان به این ماده شفا بخش دهقانان در کشور را تشویق کند که به عوض کوکنار زعفران کشت کنند. مشتریان گرامی می توانند زعفران مورد ضرورتشان را از طریق وبسایت های www.healingzafran.com و www.shifazafran.com همچنان amazon.com و ایبی به دست بیاورند. شماره های تماس ما برای آن از مشتریان عزیز که از داخل ایالات متحده امریکا می‌خواهند از طریق تلفن سفارش بدهند می توانند به شماره رایگان 8554 72 3766 یا 8554 زعفران تماس گیرند و آنان که در خارج از ایالات متحده امریکا سکونت دارند و میخواهند زعفران از طریق تلفن سفارش کنند می توانند به شماره 949 290 9016 تماس گرفته و زعفران مورد ضرورتشان را سفارش بدهند. عجله کنید تا از زعفران افغانی، این گیاه جادویی و درمانی برای سلامتی وجودتان بهره مند شوید.